All right. Hey, Noah. So this is another episode of the Convert Devotionals. And this is Noah. Hi, Noah.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Okay. So I have found you on TikTok,
Hmm.
but also I think that from your story that I heard your story through Ward Radio, but it was Simply Saints
It's
being,
vicarious, I think. Yeah,
yes,
she mentioned
yes.
me.
Okay, so
I had a beard then. I don't anymore.
you what?
I had a beard then.
Oh,
In the video, they were all just enamored with my facial hair, and I've since swapped teams. I'm a
there you
mustache guy now, so.
go. I love it. That's cool. So tell me, so let's get started with your story. Noah and his wife have both converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And it's a really, really cool story. So, Noah, why don't you go ahead and get started and tell us how you found Simply Saints and all of that stuff, too.
Excellent. So first and foremost, I live in northern Mississippi, which is just the prime territory for Southern Baptists and other Protestant denominations. They thrive here. They're everywhere. You can literally drive through the town that I live in, and you could probably throw a rock at any point and hit a different church. They're
Mhm.
everywhere. I don't know exactly where you're coming from, but churches are everywhere here. Um, so I was raised Southern Baptist. While my parents were married, my dad was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Mhm.
Didn't really talk about it a whole lot. It was a point of contention for my parents. I didn't ever get to go with him or anything, but after they divorced, which they divorced before I was 10, so it wasn't really that big a deal. As I got older, I had some theological issues with the church I was raised in. Had questions that every time I asked, people just looked at me like I had three heads or something.
Mhm. And
So,
this is with your Southern Baptist.
yes,
Okay.
yes, I was raised stringent Southern Baptist. So, up until when I was about 14 or 15 years old, I went every Sunday. I was really, really, it was very strict. But when I got to about 15 years old, I started leaning away from church as a whole due to some, you know, my own issues at the time, teenagers and whatnot.
Right.
Uh, but I had been through some trauma. I'd been through some abuse and things like that, and for some odd reason, I deemed it necessary to blame God for it. So I was an angry little teenager.
Mhm.
So I started venturing out and I tried different things. Well, I was sitting in the computer lab at school, and I had seen the episode of South Park. Like I'd bought like South Park on DVD or whatever,
Mhm.
and they had that episode all about Mormons. And I'm sitting there, I was like, hold on a second, my dad used to be Mormon. Like it wasn't nothing that ever got talked about because I mean every time it got mentioned, my mom got the red on. You know what I'm saying? It's like we didn't bring it up,
Right.
but like my
Southern
dad used to be
Baptist and a Mormon, sorry, a Southern Baptist and a Mormon, it's very different. My
very
husband was
much.
also raised Southern Baptist. So I can understand. Yeah. So I like they didn't go for too long. His dad was like trying to be a pastor and all that stuff. So we're very familiar with that. So yeah, I can see exactly where you're coming from. He was also very much against the church. So
Yeah,
his dad
there's
was.
no hate like Christian love, is what they say.
Yeah.
So I was like, my dad used to be Mormon. Like that's weird. So I got on the computer or whatever, and it was really easy to get a copy of the Book of Mormon. I wanted a free one because at this point I'm exploring.
Yeah.
I'm trying different things. I never had the financial means to do like New Age pagan stuff. I tried to be a Wiccan. It cost too much money. Candles are expensive.
That's funny. Oh my,
When you're an unemployed teenager having to buy candles and books and
yeah.
things like that, so the religion's beautiful. It's fine, but it's like I just did not have the financial means to support it. I think I was trying different things, so I had a Book of Mormon delivered um, to. I was living at my mom's at the time. That didn't last very long. I don't think I ever even got to read it much. I think she came through and cleaned my room one day and just said, "Well, he don't need that," and just kind of tossed it. I think.
Tossed
I've
it.
never
Yeah.
I've never asked her. For all I know, it's like still in my childhood closet.
Right.
But like I never seen that copy of the Book of Mormon again. so
That's
so
funny.
years go by. I've my relationship with God has been tenuous at best. Like I said, I had trauma and I had pain. And I was mad. I was placing the blame all over the place. So as I got older, I finally just decided I was done with religion as a whole.
Hmm.
So I was agnostic for many years. I never could consider myself an atheist, mainly because I had I had the existence of God so deeply instilled in me. Like I couldn't just be like, there is no God. But like something's not right. When I try to go to this church or that church, there's some kind of block. Something is not jihading, as we say
Right.
around
Well,
here.
and one quick thing is, I feel like when you leave religion or you are agnostic and have those different views, when it comes to atheism, I don't think a lot of people realize that you have to develop your own beliefs in atheism as well. Like
Right.
it's not just believing in nothing. You actually have to come to terms
Atheism
with believing in
is a
nothing.
religion.
Yes, it's a religion, and
Like
it's
people don't want to talk about it, but
yes,
like there are different denominations of atheism,
really.
ironically.
I'm
Yeah, I
not
mean it's just
surprised.
there's different mindsets. Everything every because you have like the militant atheists that are just like there is no God, you're stupid for believing in a God, here's this and that. And then you got some people that are just like are real chill. I don't think it's
Yeah,
quite broke up in the same way that like organized religion is, but there I guess it's more like a spectrum of
yeah,
atheism than anything.
yeah.
There's
It's
I've met all
multiple.
kinds.
Yes, and
Um,
I feel like people think it's something that is easy. Like I'll just not believe in anything, and that is hard too. I had a brother who was atheist, and I just feel like it's not easy to believe in nothing. It's hard
seems
too.
lonely.
Go ahead. So
Oh, it's fine. I was just saying it seems lonely.
yes.
Yeah. So about the time I turned 18, I met the woman that would become my wife. She wasn't raised in church at all, so there was no conflict there. I didn't want to go. She didn't want to go. Great.
Yep.
We get 2 Saturdays a week. You know, we're not going nowhere. That's the way it was for several years. But down inside, I guess, I always felt like I still needed to kindle that relationship with God, especially now that I had met someone that I knew very, very early on was going to be my wife, someone that I was going to be responsible for and have for a very long time. So I tried to go back to church, and I'd end up back at the same church I grew up in, and it like I said, it was whatever you believe works for you. That's fantastic. I couldn't reconcile my own beliefs with that of the Southern Baptist tradition. I
Hmm.
never understood the Trinity, and I've had several hour-long conversations where someone tries to make it make sense to me, and it doesn't make sense to
Right.
me.
Right.
It's cool if that's how you view God and that's what makes you feel close to Him. Go for it.
Right.
I can't. I guess I'm just slightly more on the logical side where it's like that don't make sense.
Right.
Um, so years go by. Of course, me and my wife have been together over 12 years now. We've been married for 8. And a few years ago, I've been collecting all kinds of books. I don't know if you can see this shelf behind me, the top section before you get to the abnormally large Stephen King collection.
Yeah.
Um,
Stephen King.
lots,
That's awesome.
lots of books on the occult and Kabbalah and Rosicrucianism and things like that. Of course, I am a Freemason, so that kind of sparked my interest in some of the more esoteric things.
Hmm.
I've been a Mason for several years, but I was I was I was at a job where I was absolutely miserable between the medication that I was taking at the time for my bipolar disorder
Hmm.
and then the hours and being away from home, and I was just absolutely miserable. Um, so I had been using tobacco for years. I mean,
Hmm.
I started using smokeless tobacco when I was probably about 14 years old
Yeah.
and had not quit. Um, but one day I was at this job. I'd already been there for about 14 hours and I was miserable. And I looked and I only had had one dip left. And I was just like, I'm not going to buy any more of this. And I didn't. That's been going on 3 years ago.
Wow. Good for you.
And then working all those hours and all that, you spend a lot of time around the coffee pot. Of course, I'm an electrician by trade. I was a journeyman electrician at this particular facility, and it was very taxing. Stuff breaks, it becomes a big deal really, really, really quick. You spend a lot of time around the coffee pot because you're gonna be here a while. It's so when I left that job, I found myself not spending any time around a coffee pot, and then it's probably about 6 months after I started the job I'm at now when I was like, I don't have a copy of the Book of Mormon in my collection. I I never went back and got another one. I
Mm.
guess I just gave up on it. But I was like, I have my own address. I can have it shipped here and nobody's gonna throw it away. You know what I'm saying? I'm an adult. I'm a big boy. I'm gonna get me a Book of Mormon.
Right.
Um, and so that's what I did. I got on the website and I was like, yeah, I'll have a little meeting with the missionaries or whatever. I'll run them off and then I'll get my Book of Mormon. And that's not how it worked.
Right.
Um, actually, this is that copy of the Book of Mormon.
Yes.
As as
Awesome.
you can see, I didn't run them off. We sat down. I had 2 full-time elders and a member of the local ward come and sit on my couch and pet my dogs, and
Yeah.
they ended up staying for like an hour and a half. And it was just like, hold on a second, I'm not fixing to run you guys off. And we started talking about it, and I started wheels started turning. I was like, golly, I can't believe I'm even thinking about joining the Mormon church. My mother's gonna kill me. Um, so they invited me to come to a sacrament meeting. I was like, I'll think about it. And of course, at this point, my wife is still 100% not religious. She's probably been to church less than 20 times her entire life at this point. It just wasn't something she was raised around. She supports me, but I mean, just she's never really knew any of the Bible stories or anything like that. I'd make a reference to something biblical and she'd be, you
Right.
know,
Right.
I
Can I
so
ask you something? So when you got when you ordered one, a Book of Mormon, came to your house, you said someone from the ward, so you came to your house too with the missionaries. So you hadn't met anybody like as far, okay, so the missionaries just brought someone from your local
yeah,
ward.
I think they just so the man that they brought is actually a ward missionary. That's his calling.
Oh, okay.
So
Gotcha.
I guess they just wanted some help. I don't know. Maybe they felt a disturbance in the force and thought I was going to be really unruly, so they brought an adult. because our full time missionaries are barely
Yeah.
adults.
Yes, I know. We need some
But
help
I
here.
was,
We need some backup.
yeah, for real. But
I get
yeah, yeah.
it. And how
They
did your
came
wife
and
feel about this?
she it was really really refreshing because because she knew so little about religion as a whole. She was not judgmental whatsoever. She didn't have any kind of negative comments or anything about the Book of Mormon or anything. She didn't know any of it.
Yeah.
It was a very very like a negativity free zone. She was like, "That sounds kind of interesting," and then just go on about her day.
Okay.
So it wasn't very long. I was baptized on the 25th of February last year,
Wow. Awesome.
and so I didn't run them off. I decided to stick around. So I walked into my first sacrament meeting, and I walked in. And I was like, ah, it makes sense that you're a Mormon. Like, legitimately, you've always been like one of the nicest people I've ever known in my entire life. I should have known. So that's who I sat next to. You know, I'd known him for a long time. And I just, it's something about a sacrament meeting. Even for, it's very different than the way that even most Protestants do a service to even start with. There's so much reverence that goes into the ordinance of the sacrament, and there's always a very, very respectful kind of tone to a sacrament meeting. It's very different. Where like I mean, I know friends that were raised, in like charismatic and apostolic backgrounds, where that would be like the exact opposite. They worship by making racket.
Right.
That's
Right.
what they do. Where
Totally.
that's how they worship. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's very 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 laid back.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but
reverent.
I
Cool.
truly I felt the spirit, and I spent many years up until this point, praying. Hey, um, I know that in order for this marriage to work, I know by reading your word that in order to make this work and do things correctly, we have to be in it together. I knew that my wife needed to be in church with me. I didn't ever push or nothing, but I've had several angry conversations with God because I kept praying over and over and over, and it just never happened. You ever had an angry prayer? So it's
Mm,
like you get mad at your earthly parents, and y'all bicker and stuff. It's like I've had a couple angry prayers where it's like, legitimately, dude, what else do you want me to do?
right.
So you end up, the last time that I'd ever really thought anything about it, um, I basically just told God, I said, "Look, you want me, you can come get me. I'm done chasing you. I've done everything that I was raised to believe I'm supposed to do, and something's still not working."
Yeah.
So but he did. He came and got me, and I
Wow.
was baptized in February, and my wife was baptized in June. I got to baptize her.
That's so special.
It is. We're actually we're less than a month or so away from going to the temple. So we've
Oh
been doing
wow.
temple prep classes
Yep.
and all that. So we're it's
So there's a lot.
um,
It's exciting to go through the temple. Okay, so at this point, you your wife seemed very much just kind of go with the flow. She's okay with you looking into this religion, and you had a friend that you saw at church when you went to sacrament meeting.
yes,
Oh, that's great. So that
more,
probably
more, more more than a friend, someone that I considered a brother.
oh wow.
As no, we never talked about it.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. So I do have to ask because I saw on when the other stuff I've watched with your story, Alyssa Grenfell plays a part, right? Or does she
Yeah.
not? I've got to hear about this.
So, first and foremost, I want to point out that I don't like the fact that social media like tracks your every move, because no sooner had I begun having lessons with the missionaries as Alyssa Grenfell popped up on my For You page on TikTok.
Oh yeah, so
So
true.
I will go ahead and say this, like, it's okay. I'm so happy that she found whatever peace that she's after, but she definitely, like, she would say things like, the first meeting with the missionaries, like, that's pretty cool, whatever, and then like I'd watch a video and she'd be like, well, they believe they get a planet when they die. It's like, well, isn't that cool? Am I the only? I mean, I know I'm a nerd, but like that sounds pretty cool. Who wouldn't want that?
How do I say this? It's just interesting with these people who have left the church. They can't seem to leave it alone. And so much of it, it's not that much of an issue that they can't leave it alone, but it's that they give these people these false some of it's true, but a lot of it is misconstrued. A lot of it's dramatized.
I think the most like spiteful and mean ex Mormons are kind of our fault. Our religion inherently, I mean, you go to a fast and testimony, a meeting or something, we spend so much of our time reassuring ourselves and others that we know that the church is true. We know that our current prophet is a prophet, seer, and revelator. I mean, these are things, it's constant affirmation. So I can't imagine how painful it must be for somebody to have a faith crisis when all they've done their entire life is say with 100% surety, I know this, I know this, I know this. I feel bad for them. But our church, the nature of our church inherently, like, there's always that risk because we're so we spend so much time like projecting how much we love the church, and the church is, and it is, and I do 100% have a testimony of the Book of Mormon. I can't imagine what kind of pain can be involved when something that you've heard your entire family say is the truth, and you've testified is the truth, and then the adversary slides in there and takes that away from you. We usually have such a strong foundation to stand on, but he never misses a beat to try and to cause us to slip. So I know how painful it is to like to not have that relationship with God, but to have something that has been just basically reinforced over and over and over and over again, and something changed there. It's got to be incredibly painful, and I do feel for them. I really do. They took the passion that they used to use to stand behind the pulpit and uplift the church, and they've redirected it. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. If they were incredible, I guarantee that Alyssa Grenfell was an incredible missionary. I guarantee that she just absolutely just blossomed and just spread the gospel like nobody's business, to see how passionate she is about um, being antithetical to it now. But I mean, that kind of passion is not a new thing. She used to be an incredible missionary, and it's not over. She could be again. She could have one of the coolest testimonies ever. All we can do is pray for them and do a little damage control, because some of the stuff they say is not true. Some of it is. The church history is not spotless. The church history is not divine it by any, you know.
That I agree with what you were saying, and I think that all we can do, and this is one of the reasons I started this podcast, and I wanted to be an influencer, was to help give the right perspective. Because as far as like with the people who have left the church and who are hating against it, I'm trying to give the right perspective and the true perspective. You're right; some of what they say is true, but and
Oh,
some of it is not. But I try to correct it and hope that we can bring some positivity, because there definitely needs to be these positive
I'm
stories like yours.
right. Well, I'm a perfect example of how the church is kind of moving into the modern age a little bit, because I am covered in tattoos. I couldn't tell which arm I was showing you. You know, I've got them all over the place. I got ear gauges, and I was set apart as a service missionary in April. Yeah. I mean, we just have to be patient and just sit back, and if we truly believe that the church is led by prophets, seers, and revelators, let them prophesy, see, and revelate. I mean, it's like just sit back and wait just to see how far the church has come in the 200 years it's existed so far. I mean, it's everything is eventual. It's going to be fine. I don't. We probably won't have all the answers in even my lifetime. But the bottom line is the answers that we do have bring me peace, they bring me joy, and that's all that really matters. I feel closer to Christ, and it's really the only goal, isn't it? It's
We just need to spread more. There just needs to be more positivity. There needs to be more of these conversion stories, more of all of this, because it's
version.
yes, yes. And I love that. So that's why I had you on, was to share your conversion story and your wife's. Um, that is amazing. That is amazing. I'm so happy to hear these stories, and it really brightens my day. And I hope that it brightens other people's days and helps.
Maybe so. I'm the perfect example of somebody that doesn't deserve the atonement, and somebody that's done some pretty bad stuff. But um, every everybody is capable of taking the atonement and applying it to their life, and like we're all Heavenly Father's children, so it's like there you can't go too far for the atonement to reach you. I think
Yeah,
that's the good way to butcher and paraphrase something that somebody way more spiritually sound than me says, but yeah, I
it's
like
so
it.
true, though.
I know when I did an interview with Simply Saints a while back, it's on her YouTube channel. And one of the things that I pointed out was like, as a Southern Baptist, when I was raised Southern Baptist, the concept of getting saved. So, them and a few other denominations, that's what they refer to it as. It's getting saved, right? They use the word salvation a lot.
Yeah.
So it's nomenclature that stuck with me, even though I'm no longer a Protestant. The concept's fairly similar. Um, so in order to be saved as Southern Baptist, you have to. They called it the ABCs when I was growing up. Like we go to like vacation Bible school. Yeah. So the ABCs like were you admit that you are a sinner. You B, believe in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And you C, confess your sins. And then after that, you would ask Jesus Christ to be your personal Lord and Savior. Now, to the Baptist, that's salvation. You're saved, depending on which flavor Baptist you are, that could be permanent, right? So some Baptists believe in once saved, always saved. Um, But at that point, you are saved, and then you get baptized as a symbol just to show people that you got saved, right? And I told, like, I've had some family members that were really concerned when I joined the church. And I told them, I said, look, if that's what it takes to be saved, then you have nothing to worry about because I've done every bit of that. I've done everything that it takes to be saved for your church, but I'm just wanting to do more. It's like I want to take upon myself more covenants, more responsibilities. I want to do more. So I do admit that I'm a sinner. I do believe in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And I do confess my sins. I repent. I partake in the sacrament. I believe every bit of that. You're absolutely right. And I've been baptized by priesthood authority, I might add. So stop worried about me. If your gospel is right, I'm not going to hell, right? If I've done everything that your church says it takes to be saved, I'm clear. So, and it's I don't know. They don't get that. It's just like I've done it. Here I am. I've ABC'd my way to the top. Mom, I'm here.
They have their different beliefs on it, but I love that even in church on Sunday, it was board conference, and our state president was talking about miracles are going to be happening on this earth, that the biggest miracles you've ever seen from Russell M. Nelson just talked about this a few
Mhm.
conferences ago, saying that we're going to have the most amazing miracles coming forth that we've ever seen. So he didn't just say us as far as like our religion. He said, does this apply to the Catholics? Does this apply to the other Christian denominations? Of course it does. I love that our gospel isn't just us as far as like the Church of Jesus Christ. This is everybody.
At the end of it all, we're like the only denomination or church under the banner of Christendom that doesn't think the rest of them are going to burn in hell for eternity.
Right.
So that's fairly inclusive, all things considered.
It is. It is very. We are not all going to hell. Like
Yeah,
you're
it's
a good person.
woo.
You're supposed to
And I
be.
tell you that's the most peaceful thing is like not once, not a single solitary fragment of a second since converting to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter day Saints has my soul quivered at the notion of burning in hell for eternity. It was beat into me for so many years that that's the outcome. It's like you either get saved or you burn in hell forever. It's like, that sucks. I'm sorry, that sucks. That's not free will. How is that free will when your only option is eternal torment and damnation or get saved? That's coercion at the least, right? That's forced. So I don't worry about hell at all. I've got the fullness of the gospel. I'm not going to be there. I was just talking about J. Golden Kimball the other day, and you're probably more than familiar with old J. Golden Kimball. He was a 70. He was the cussing apostle, is what they called him. Yeah. So he was. There's a story I read because my bishop told me about him. I said that sounds really interesting to have a guy that's prominent LDS. Of course, it's like in the early 1900s, but I mean, he's cussing and smoking and drinking coffee and
Yeah.
stuff. But like, um, one of the stories that I read was he was on his way to where I live, the South, and he was on a train, and on the train were people saying, "I'm going north to get away from the Mormons, and I'm going east to get away from the Mormons." And Jay Golden Kimball told him to go to hell because he knew there wasn't any Mormons there.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love
So
it.
he's a little crass, a little rough, but sentiment holds, I think. It's really, really funny. Thank you for having me.